I was born in 1931, and I will give you the address of that, and the house is still in existence. But my mother and my father were getting a divorce just before I got born. And in those days, I think the term would be, I might have been a bastard kid. And anyway, I have no idea how our mother met Ernie, but Ernie's the only house the first house that I realized that at 899 Rhodes Avenue, and the lot was only 25 feet wide. It was fairly long and had an outhouse in the back and a shed. In the early years, that outhouse was operating, but then sewer came in, and we got our first bathroom attached to the house. But there was, of course, the Depression was not in its peak, but it had been going on for a number of years. Of course, I didn't realize that back then. That that little house that had a living room, and then there was another room, and a kitchen, and an add-on, and it was labeled a shotgun house. Because if you stood at the front door, you could shoot straight through the house. That's what they said.
You had a room over here and a room over here. And the doorway went right through the house, doorways.
The neighborhood was becoming more of a mixed socially. There were a lot of color people within that were growing up. The neighborhood was not a very good neighborhood. I remember Ernie. I remember Ernie because I didn't realize that when I got my first report card, and I took home and had my mother sign it, and I took it back, and I noticed that it didn't have my name on it. And I couldn't figure out. I thought she was my mother, but so then I didn't know that it really affected me back then. But so I really never met my father until many years later, and that was I wasn't really very old. And I know he came to take me someplace for a couple of days. And the first time I saw him, he had a mustache like Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, he did.
And of course, at that time, I had no comprehension of Adolf Hitler until many years later. But that was a shocker. So anyway, Mom let him take me, and they took me to Euclid, Cleveland, and he had an apartment over some stores. I only stayed there a couple of days, and I really never seen him when I stayed there. I was thinking, well, I guess the woman he was married to, I don't know. And I don't know her name. But anyway, the neighborhood was shocked me. He had steel bars in front of, because it was above stores on his street. And it was like every store had what steel bar. I mean, really steel bars, about like 3/4 inch thick, across their stores, all of them on both sides of the street. So it really wasn't a very good neighborhood. But that's all I remember is that. But the other thing is, in those early years, our Aunt Myrtle's husband died, got killed, and she didn't have no place to go, so she moved in with us in this really 3-room house.
Now, is Aunt Myrtle your mom's sister?
My mom's sister. And she had 4 kids.
And so the kids moved in too?
Yeah. But 2 of them were older, and they worked at the skating rink at Summit Beach. But that was the only job they had. And so Marjorie and Bobby, all they stayed was, I don't know where everybody slept. I have no idea. But anyway, which added more girls than boys in the house. And that's around the time that Raymond was maturing a little bit for, like 13, 14, I don't know how old he was. But I know he did something in the bedroom, which there was one bed on one side and a bed on the other side, and all of us kids slept on those 2 beds. And of course, he was teasing the girls, and he did a couple of naughty things in front of them. And I didn't figure out until later that's why Mom had him, made our real dad pick him up and keep him. But Raymond was really resourceful. He always managed to come back.
Yeah, he was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
But when he was there's another thing to go back a little further when we was going to school. I used to sneak out of the house and follow him sometimes because he would sneak out. And we'd go down some of these alleys and we'd pass this colored people's church, and they would be singing, and it was great. I'd have to stand there just watch that. I thought it was really great. But we were headed for an alley, and he always carried a toothpick with him, and I couldn't figure out why he always had a toothpick. Well, we got down there where the alley comes out to the street, and people walked by, and a lot of people, flipped their cigarette. Well, that toothpick was to pick up that cigarette, and if it was still lit, he got a couple of puffs out of it. And that was one of those things that I do remember. But we always seemed to have had it, because Ernie had 2 sons there too. Francis was still going to school. And Jim was there with his 2 kids. At the same time, all these others were there.
Jim who?
Jim Kastner.
Oh, that's his son.
Yeah.
Ernie's.
And he had 2 kids.
Well, he had more
2
kids
girls.
than that, but there was 2 of them that was, one that was still going to school was Francis. And so he was with us most of the time through our growing up there.